So as I was saying, float blocked element, they automatically create a new line. So this is a block element. Now, if we want to float this element to be in the same line, like to be like this, you go like this, like this. So I'm we're going to be using the first element called float. Now, if we use float inside these boxes, what happens is that the boxes will automatically float either left or center. Either left or center. Now, float also have a kind of a pattern and principles that govern float. Now, let's say for instance, okay, let me talk about inline element. I think I skipped that. Now, these blocks elements I just listed, there are a lot of blocks elements. Now, inline elements are like ATAG, italic, span, um, bold. So those are inline elements. Those elements that will be automatically inline. So you don't need to float them. Those elements are elements that will be automatically what? Inline. So they will be inline. Like when I mean inline, we all know what is inline. If something is not, those elements that are horizontal, immediately you create them, the horizontal is setting. While those other elements that are vertical, like this way, is what we call inline elements. Do we understand? If you understand, click write on the comment section. Say I understand. If you understand what I just explained, write on this comment section that you understand. Okay, good and fine. Okay, see how to explain float again. Let me explain float one more time again. I'll do that the second time. Now I say float. Uh, float when we talk about float, float move your object either left or right. A block object. Now these are block objects. So when you create a div, it will be in a block setting. In a block setting like this. When you use UL, it will be in a block setting. So what float does is that float will automatically change those elements to become an inline from block to an inline element. You get those elements like this. So this is what float. So when it says float, if you float right, it goes to this side. Float don't have a center setting. So when you float left, it goes to this area. So that's what float does. Like like align, it's not the same with align. So if you use align in a block element, align center, it will still come center, but it will still be like this. It will still be in this format. So to change it from vertical to horizontal to vertical, you need to use float. And I say float has a lot of principles that govern float. Let's go back to our book. Now, when we look at here, the float properties is used for positioning and please mute your mic now. I beg in the name of God. Float a float element is used for formatting content like image. Are you getting me? Like an image, float image to left, to right, or text of a container to center. Now, float only have this principle. It can either float element to left of its container, float to right of its container. Then they can also put a principle as none. So basically, that's what the work of float does. We're going to be looking at other properties in float. Now, when you look at this image here, this image is a container that have a content. In this image was float to right. This particular image is float to what? To right. We also have this particular image is float to left. Now we are going to be doing a bit of practical. Let's see what we are what we are talking about in floats and see how we can use floats. Now we want to use float, for instance. Now before we use float, I also want to explain about flexbox and inline. We'll talk a bit about flexbox and inline. Now, before we talk about inline, let me quickly do floats so that we can understand. So to quickly do that, we need to create Do we need to create a file? Need to create. Okay. Wait, wait, let me deploy this before this. It must be like that. I need to understand what this is. Okay. Automated. Okay. I just wanna come down. Okay. Let me um let me quickly go to this. Please, can somebody remind me the name of our folder again? The last job we did. What is the folder name? The last general class. That was on Sunday, right? Huh? No. Okay. The name of the folder. I mean the name of the folder. No, the name of the. Uh, let me create. Okay, let me just use general class for instance. Let me general class. Please mute your mic. Mute your mic. Mute your mic. So mute your mic. So let's create a folder. Let's just create a folder here. Guys, pardon me. Let me create a folder. Let me use Terminal to create a folder. I don't just know what's this. Let me just use Terminal to create a folder. Sorry, oh, don't ask me what I'm doing. If you ask me, you get lost. Huh? This is Python. I just want to create a folder. That's all. If you ask me, you get lost. You don't understand it. All right. Class 17. Right. Make 17. Okay, I've created a folder. So this is the folder here, class 17. So don't ask me what I just did. Though. This one is backend Python. So all right. Let's so so what we are going to do in this class 17, we want to create a file, a float.html. Now inside this float.html, what you are going to be doing is HTML. So basically, what we are going to be doing is to generate our HTML file or float. Then inside this float, we are going to be having what's that called it a div. Let's say we're going to be having three div. Are we together? We are going to be having three div. Now in these three div, the first div we have let's see container or anything. You can use any name. Doesn't mean you use container. Use any name container. Then I enter. to automatically create a class for me. Without this container, I need like three elements. What I'm going to do, those three elements, I can say div times three will give us three elements. I can just say, okay, let me give the element with the class div or container div. So sorry, it will be container div times three. Dot container div times three. So times three means I want to get three objects. Container div times and three. I want to get three objects. So made I have three container here. I can just see skyline, uh, skyline two, one, two, then skyline three. Now these are the div. These are the div element we have. To know if really this div is working, you have to come. We have to just open our not open our file. To open this file to view from our browser. So here we have the div. We can also right click and view inspect. So to inspect to see if we are indeed using a container. So we look at this arrow here down, you see that we have a container. Then we have another container here. We have another container, another container here. So this is the container. What we are going to be doing is to add a background inside our container, inside of those container we have. So to create my CSS, what I need to do is to create um, a folder. I can decide to do it here. Let me just create a folder. CSS, right? Then inside this folder, I'm going to create a file, style.css. We all know how to do all these things. Then I'm also going to link my CSS folder. To do that, what I need to do is to come to my head here. Before I'm going to link it, let me write something first. Inside the body, going to be inside the body tag. When I say body, this is what I mean by the body. This body here. So any element from here down here will be affected if I add any properties here. So I just need to come back to my okay background. I'll give it this background to confirm if my CSS is working. So I just need to come here and link. To link my CSS, we have to do that in between the opening tag and the closing tag of the head. We'll do this. Uh, I don't need much explanation for this. So we will just to generate a default text for CSS link. You want to know that this is the type of the link, type of the text we are linking, which is CSS. Then here we have a CSS. This is the CSS we have. The next one we have the style.css. So let's view our page. I think it's working. To confirm that, because this is too, the CSS color is too, the CSS color is too, I need to make the CSS color a bit darker. All right. So it's working. So I don't need the, don't need to make it this way. All right. So next thing we're going to be doing is to come to here. Remember, we created a class that contain all these div, this container here. This particular can contain all these containers. So I'm going to be giving it a background, maybe probably a dark background. So that one going to do in the background, dark background, then background. Let's call it a dark this. When you come here, you see the background. This is the background we have here. And when you notice here, you can see we have space in between the background. We remove this space. And if in case you don't want any space, because this space automatically also will be added inside your weight. So this weight is not 100%. To do that, you don't need to come to you don't need to come here to remove those spaces. So to remove those spaces, all you need to do is to So let me close this. Right. So to do that, all you need to do is to look on star. So remember this space here. When you notice, you also see a space. Let me change this man to. You can also see a space. We have a space here, this space and this space. To remove that space entirely, so they can have 100% of your container. You need to put star. Then the margin, all round margin will be zero. Then the padding will also be zero. So this is what we got. The result. When you check outside, you can see the space is no longer there. If you can hear me say I hear, type it in the comment section. So you can see here we have this space. So another thing we're also going to be doing inside our background. Please mute yourself, mute yourself. Oh, so inside our background, inside our this div element, I'm going to be copying this container. Let me add kind of a different background also. Now dot this, then I can say background. Uh, Let me give this as a background. Then when you do that, you can see we have okay. Let's give it a bit width background. Let's give it a width of 20 pixel. Okay, you can see the background here. You can see the background here. You can see the width of the background here. But let me increase the width of that background to like a width like or let's just say a width of 50% of let's say 100 pixel. Okay, we have our background here. You can see all these elements have background. So the background I'm going to be giving is let's say 20%, 40%. I would say width 40% of 30%. So if you give this 40%, this is what happen. This is what happen. Now, if you give the 40% of this element, that means all this container inside here will have 40%, 40%. But if you know this thing is having one background, and I want it to have different kind of background. So what I'm going to be doing is to just inside those container, I don't need to give another class because the class I'm using here is a div class, and that's why it's affecting the whole element. So I don't need to come here and create in different div. I can just instead of creating a different div, I can say uh, div one, container one, two, then container three. So when it come there, you see that our background has disappeared because we have changed, we are name our container. It's not seeing the container we are calling. So yeah, I will just say okay. Um, I'm giving a container. Okay, sorry. I say container div of one. Now it will only affect the container div of one. So when you come here, you will see that we have this container div here. You can see, look at it, the container div. Then let's add another container two. Let's give a container two a kind of a background also. So do that quickly. You don't need to. Let's just duplicate this for time's sake. Uh, press this here. All right. Then look at what I'm doing. I'm just collapsing this like so that I can have more space. I'm just collapsing so that I can have more space. Then let me open it back. So the container we're giving here should be container like a different background. Let's give this a dark background. Then this should be container. This should be container two. Then we're also going to now here we have container two, which is skyline two. So let's move ahead. So that I'm going to click press here. So let's give a different background also, a background of yellow. All right, let's see what happened. Guys, see we have The first container, container one is yellow. Let's see what happens. I think you have not changed this container. We need to also change this container to container three. So you can see we have three containers, right? And you can see each of those container have a they add just like height to those container. So to add height, I want to use the same height to all those containers and also the same text to all those containers. So what I simply need to do is to call all those containers as one. So what I need to do is dot container one, then comma. Like if you want to use what kind of problem is this? See, I will be corrosive. Anybody that makes noise, I'll remove the person. Just to mute your mic, will not mute your mic. Containers two, then container three. So the container three, I'm giving all those container. The reason why I'm using container one and container two, you can see that I have a kind of comma. The reason why I'm using this is because this I will have all this container. I want to give it the same weight. So the same height rather. I will say height 50 pixel. All right. So this is the height. This is the height we are having here. Oga, mute your mic. Oh. I have set it. Mute your mic. So another thing we're also going to do here is set this to left, set the background to white. So basically, you just come here, a color, give any light white color, any like that color. This is what we have here. Now, now we are going to learn how to make use of flutes. Now now for instance, now we want to have these boxes to be three, like to be will be in a vertical format. When I mean vertical format, this is what I mean by vertical format. Want this text to be in a vertical format like this. Instead of being like this, we want it to be in a vertical box. This way, this way, this way. So this is what I want it to be in a vertical format. Now we are going to be using float. After we have used float, we are going to be using inline and also a kind of let's say also flex box. Now to move this man to center, move all these elements to center, we need to move this container, each container, we need to move it to left, either left or right. If you are hearing me say I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. Now, to do that, thi- this is what we need. You don't need to just don't know mute yourself, just type it in the comment section below. So we want to move this element, this boxes, we want to move these boxes to the right or either left. But I'm moving it to the right. Then from there we can use our margin and pattern to fix whatever we want to do. Now, before I do that also, I want to create another div under here, a separate div under this under this so a separate div also. Now to create a separate div, I know I'm creating this div. I don't want to use it for as an example to understand different between flutes and what's that called? Different between flute and container four. Remember, this container is not on the same div. This one is on its own div. I want to show the difference between flute and other containers. So let's add the background here and give it a kind of margin pattern. So in our container four, me I like doing I like, it's container four, not three. Look at it here. Okay, container four, skyline four, right? All right, all right. So me, I like working from top so that I don't need to be scrolling down again. I'm done with this guy. I don't need to work from top, so you can work from anywhere. So container, excuse me, container four. Then that container four. Let me have a different background. I have a background of let's say this. Um, then let's give a width of 50%. Then a height of let's say a height of 60 pixel. Basically, this is what we have here. So I think we have this container. We know what to do now. Let's add a bit of space so it look very nice. So, padding, margin top rather. Say 100 pixel or 50 pixel. Let's just use 50 pixel. 100 pixel is too much. 50 pixel. So here we have a. We can see we have a space here. We have a space uh, on this particular element. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to be floating this to the left. Before you float this to the left, I want you to understand something. Please listen attentively. I want you to understand something. Now, when you are floating, as I explained earlier, every div have a background, have a length, a weight. This is the weight of 100%. And remember, inside there, we are using 40% each. And the 40 times 3 is more than 100%. So, possibly, if you float this thing, it will not work. If you float this thing to the left, it will not work because of the percentages. So the percentage is bigger. Now in diff element, we have this. Let me explain again. In diff element, we have the weight of 100%. And that 100% is from here to this end. That is 100%. Now another thing also is that inside this container, this man container, we added 40% as their weight. So when you added 40%, now we have three. This 40 times three. How many are we getting? Huh? How many are we getting? Now we're having the diff weight of 120%. And if you float this thing, if you float these two elements in the left, it will not work. Let's try that so you understand what I'm trying to say. Let me do a physical explanation for those who may not understand. Now, I want to float this element. I already have container here. I have container where I created all those three elements. Let me look for it. Let me look for that container. Okay, this is a container where I created all these elements. Now, if I float this to left. When you come here, you see what happened, right? It break. Yeah? Because this is break. And another thing, we cannot see our background. Are we together? Are we together? If you are together, say yes, yes, yes. Please type on the comment section below. If you see this, you notice that we can't see our background. You should remember initially we have a background. And we've also on the skyline 4 also float with this element. Skyline 4 also float with this element. Skyline 4 also float with this particular element. Now, in this situation, it's not possible. There is nothing you can do. These three elements will be in the same line because the weight is greater than 100. Are we together? The three weight combined is greater than 100. Now, to fix this issue is very simple. um you just need to reduce the weight, or you reduce the height. Even though you added, remember initially we learned that if we have that situation, you need to add box sizing. Box sizing only work when you are using margin, when you add margin. When you add margin left and margin right, or padding left and padding right, and your boxes will break. So this is where box sizing comes in. It automatically resize your element to be able to fit on the same line. But this is outside the case. The case here is that those three the case here is that those three elements, obviously they are about 40%. So how are we going to reduce this? The weight is at 40%. It's very simple. I'll just come here. 40 divided by 3. How many are we getting? 100 divided by 3, please. 100 divided by 3. Are we getting how many? So we are going to divide this weight 100 into 3. Oh. We are going to divide this into 3. Please divide it and give us the corresponding answer. Okay. Now, so what you are going to do is you come here as a 3.33. Remember, we already floated our element. Next element here, 33.33. So the second element, That 3.33. Now, if you do this and come back here, let's go back. Okay, 3.333, 3.333. Let's reduce that, please. Let's give it 30%, so that if we add our margin, we'll not have any issue. 30%. One, two, container one, container two. Okay, sorry. Let's leave it to 333. I think we're not added to container one. Container one here. So it will work now. You notice that the element is now a horizontal form. Are we together? If you are together, say we are together. Please, I want you guys to be responding so that I know that I'm not just talking to myself. It is very important. Please type. Okay, now if you who can tell me what happened to this element? What do we do before this element will be able to float? And what happened initially that the element float? Mute yourself. Just indicate so that I will call in the person to come and explain to us. Okay, Amadu, Adamu Umaru, please you have the floor. Just few seconds. Adamu Umaru is not here. Next person here is Innocent. Innocent, you have the floor. Quickly. Okay, so what do we do? Now, okay, good. And then remember initially I told you something that the weight of an element is calculated both with the margin left, margin right, padding left, and padding right. Now, if we add any margin here, there's possibility that our element is going to break. Like let's say add padding or margin padding left, or margin left, like to be able to add space, to be able to add space around this box. The probability that our element may also break because it is now higher than 100%. Now, let me do a bit of illustration. So, we needed a space in between these three boxes. So, we need the margin left or margin right to do that. Margin uh, left, let's say 20 pixel. The probability that this thing will definitely break. So, do you notice it now that there is a kind of um, margin here, but it breaks to the next line. Now, if we find ourselves in this same situation, even though you come here and say, okay, let me use 10 for instance. 10 for instance, sorry, it will still break. Who can tell me what happened here? Just, just okay, Longinus, Longinus, can you tell us what just happened in this element? Why did the element break? Okay, exactly, exactly. Now, so sometime what we need to do in this situation, let even add padding so you understand what I'm trying to explain as well. Let's add padding, padding left to 10 pixel. Now, if we add the same thing, now to be able to resolve this issue, we need to use box sizing. This is not the first time I've been explaining about box sizing, and I've done it like 3, 4 times. I believe that everybody will understand what is box sizing. The way I teach my own is that I make sure that even though you are not the kind of person who catches fast, you will learn because I always repeat myself. The reason why I'm repeating myself is because so that if you didn't understand the first explanation, the second explanation at least you will understand. So you don't really need video for you to be able to do the same thing I did if you are following up. Now I just need to come here. Remember, initially we have this asterisk here. This asterisk here now controls every element inside our HTML. So we just need to add our box sizing. So when you see me using, I'm not going to be extending box sizing again. When you see me using box sizing, please know that I'm using it because so that our element cannot break. Have you seen it now? What will happen? When you added box sizing, now the work of box sizing is that the box sizing automatically calculates your weight, calculate your border left weight, then it will not divide it automatically. You don't need to be doing the division or maybe trying to reduce the weight. So it automatically resize it automatically for you. Now, another thing you also need to know is that when you look at this scheme we have, this scheme are in different sizes, right? Scheme are in different sizes. So every scheme comes with its own sizes. Now, when you look at this element here, you can see as we reduce it, it will resize itself. So this is a mobile site, for example, and every 99% of websites they use mobile to visit them. So when you are building, please learn this. When you are building, make sure that you are very mobile consciousness. Be very mobile conscious because if you are finished up with your site, the moment if it's not responsive, it will become a problem and a challenge for you. Now let's move ahead. Now, if you notice initially, I have a background here. I have a background. This concrete container are inside background, but unfortunately, it is no longer there. It is no longer inside the background. Now, let me remove the the kind of the float. Let me comment on this float. Now, if I comment on this float, you notice that we have a background here, and this man too have a background. Let me change this background. This man background to red, so that you understand. This man have a background. This man have a background is now is now showing, but before the background is hidden. And in some situation where we have a similar issue, and whenever you float an object, the next element will follow. The next div like the community, immediately we float this, the skyline background will disappear. So whenever I float an element, the next element will follow. Now, to resolve this issue, I think we have talked about left and right elements. So we talk about left and right. Then look at this issue. To be able to fix this issue, when in a situation whenever we float this element, the background will be hidden. Now notice, watch the background now. And if I float this man here and come back here, the background automatically disappear. And even this man background, this Kalanfa background still disappear. In order to fix this issue, because it will definitely happen. It will definitely happen. So now to fix the issue, what we need to do is that let's come back to our CSS file. Say when you use the float properties and you want the next element below, not on right or left, we have to use the clear properties. Now the clear properties specify what should happen with the element that is next to the floating element. Are we together? So the clear properties he used he used it's actually it's used to specify what will happen to this skyline here, this particular skyline element, when you float that element. Now look at what happened. This element float with this particular element. So now, in order to resolve this issue, also if you notice here, to use clear, let's do that. Now we floated this element. Now to use clear, if you look at here, we floated this element. This element has clear. Element with clear. Can the element with clear is showing the whole content, while the other element without clear is not showing the whole content. Now, to use clear, this is what we need to do. Now, the clear will have what we call um sorry, the clear element they have what we call overflow. Now, clear fix work well as long as you are able to keep control of your margin and padding. Else you may forced to have a scroll bar. Now, if you look at here, we're going to use a clear hack. Now, a clear hack, what you are doing now, when you look at this code, you notice that inside this a clear class, we have after. Now, when we talk about after, is that anything after is inside this content. When we say after, we're not talking about this particular content. Let me explain so that most of you understand. When we talk about after, when we talk about after, we're not talking about this particular content. We're talking about the content inside this container, the container div. Are you guys with me? So after means after the container div or outside this container div. After this div, what will happen to this div? After outside this div, outside or this div, this is what happened. This is the next after. So let me still explain it again so that we can understand. Now, when we say after, for instance, we have a div here. Inside this div, we have a different div. Eh? We have a different div, a different div. Now we have another div here. So after can only affect this div. Are we together? Are we together? That means after we can only affect this div. Okay, please just write on the comment section. I will see it. After can only affect this particular div. So in order to make sure that our background is showing, I get if you notice our background has disappeared. Let's add a bit of margin and margin. Our background has disappeared. Then this man also disappeared as well. In order to bring this man to his step, we need to use a prefix element called clear. This particular clear, after we have content, clear, you can clear either right or left, then display at the table. This is the property. This is what you need to use in case you find yourself in such situation tomorrow when you float your element. So quickly, let me do that. Now, inside the container element, inside this container element, this is this container. So this container actually is this container that covers houses all our elements. So what we're going to do is the container. Then after, then inside this after, we call the container is in yeah, this in Facebook. So you get it there. Then you put these two dot. Then the next one is if you do that, nothing happen. You can see nothing still happen, right? Nothing still happen. Now, what will if you add display table? Let's add display table. You have a table. Let's see what happened. You can see this man has appeared. Have you seen it? Have you seen it? Have you seen it? Now, another thing we also need to do to kuma use our clear at once. You can say clear both. If you notice earlier, if you notice when we use the table properties, you will see that this man is still here. Remember, we have margin. We added margin and margin top on this element. So automatically it's supposed to give us a margin top, but it's not happening. So when you look, you can look when you come here, you can see the margin top of this element. It's not happening. Have you seen it? When you remove the margin top, see what's happening? What is showing? Now, in order to bring out those margin top, to bring this element to itself, so that it will not clip to any of these divs, we need to come here and put clear. It can either clear to both or clear to right. So let's go back. We are gone. We are done with our work. We are done with our work. Do you understand? If you have any question, I would like you to ask me. If you don't have question, let's move ahead to other things. So